We're back. This is another episode of the MICK Show here with Steelo Brim. What up, homie? How are you, man?
What's good, my dude? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm glad we get to do this because I drink way too much wine. And so like, yeah, I think
That's our problem.
I get paid now to talk about wine. This is a great job.
I mean,
I get to talk about wine with you. Yeah.
Call Wine and Weed. So, I mean, I get it. I love to do our show and have me a nice glass of wine. I didn't have a glass of wine today just yet, but I have been smoking a little weed, so we're good.
So tell me, how old were you when you first started drinking wine?
When I first started drinking wine, actually, wine was the first thing I ever tasted. I was 24 when I had my first drink of alcohol.
Okay.
When I had my first drink of wine, I remember like it was yesterday. Me and my best friend, Michael B. Jordan, snuck into the NAACP Image Awards. We weren't supposed to be there. I had never had a glass of wine, never had any drink in my life. I think I was like 22. And wanted to fit in, wanted to look around and not look like weirdos who snuck into this party. So we saw it was a free wine bar, and I remember drinking some Chardonnay. At the age of 22, that was my first drink of wine. I hated it. It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah, you can't. Chardonnay is that's a bad way to. It's like grandma wine. Like,
it is. That's all they had though. It was free, and they had it. And I was like, all right, cool.
I love it. When you first started getting into more sophisticated palettes of wine, where you're like, it's almost like when you have to like, you're growing up. I had to get all my sneakers at like Kmart and Sears, and then like I discovered Jordans, and it was like, whoa, this is a different fucking world. Like,
yeah. It is a completely different world, and it's a world that I try not to. For me, it's either in any world, anything that you do is either you're in or you're out. So I try not to fake being an actual connoisseur or a sommelier in the space of wine. But I do, the more and more I drink wine, I get to know it more. Of course, I'm getting into more sophisticated things, but I try to just enjoy the true essence of just like the wine. It could be the cheapest wine to an expensive wine. I play with it now and try to act like I can taste what the fuck is in it. But I can't tell. I can't really tell.
Yeah, I still can't tell either. Have you ever chosen a bottle of wine just based off of the logo and the sticker and the branding and the art on the bottle?
Of course. I mean,
me too.
We don't buy anything from, we may hear hearsay, but we buy everything from the marketing of it. So of course, I may see that this bottle looks a certain way, or it might just be a certain price, and I might say, well, it must be good because why would they charge me this much? Because they fucking know you're stupid.
Yeah, right. So let me ask you, you've built, we have a bunch of things I want to get into with you about career and branding and things of that nature, but you've built a brand based on two vices, basically. Have you ever caught any flack or any negative publicity from like basically making a positive out of like things that other people would consider vices?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking at it as like, oh, this is a positive necessarily. It's a vehicle. It's the vehicle that we choose to use on our show and to getting to different topics, getting different things. And it's also a social lubricant. We understand that we're able to, don't want to say get away with more things, but have tougher conversations that most podcasts can't say if you're truly sober and you're like, oh, I'm being quoted on every moment of what I'm talking about, versus if you're like, this motherfucker's high as hell and he is drunk as hell. We can't take everything saying too serious. But yeah, it's more of a vehicle that we use. Of course, my dad works in I guess in youth baseball in the community. My mom works in the community a lot. So they don't necessarily love the fact that I do a podcast called Wine and Weed. I try to tell kids all day, like, mom's a teacher. She's like, they in school and education is this. And then my dad's working with kids and it's also like, but your son had a podcast where he's smoking and drinking. And you're like, but I don't think you should watch his podcast because you're not ready for that just yet. But at the same time, if you were, I try to still make sure that the quality's there and you're still getting healthy conversations, things that I feel like if they were for whatever reason to indulge into my podcast, you still have things you can take away from it and it has heart there and not just we're drunk and high, so blah, blah, blah. Like,
I love that. How did you guys go about building like that as a brand? We talk about this a lot on this show. I try to really focus on people who have a lot of different aspects of life going on, and the proverbial multi-hyphenate category. And I think, like, especially over the last year, if you didn't have a side hustle and you didn't have a personal brand and you didn't have a brand of anything else going on outside of your quote unquote real life, you probably do now if they're sitting home all year.
Mm-hmm.
Would you have any tools or tips for people who are trying to build a sustainable brand, whether it's a personal brand or like you've done, or just a consumer brand like the Wine and Weed?
I think establishing a brand story is always step number one, the most important thing. Anything that you do in life. We're all brands, whether you want to look at ourselves as brands or a person, whatever. We're all brands, just about what are you selling. So for me, it's about establishing a brand story. You look at yourself, or you look at, okay, well, what is the brand story of Wine and Weed? Well, it's a show that's about two individuals who have two completely different backgrounds, different places, that want to have healthy conversations to kind of be the liaison between whatever side of America, the left side of America, the right side of America, and establishing a brand story and saying, okay, well, all that falls under this brand story and this brand umbrella. It makes it just that much more clear. So then you never get sidetracked on doing this thing and doing this thing, because no, if they don't fall under my actual brand story and my brand umbrella, then there's no point in me actually doing that. It won't strengthen the brand.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you think you made any decisions at the beginning of your career that maybe impacted in a positive or negative way where your brand's at now?
Well, I try not to actually live with regrets, whether that sounds cliche or not. I do have things that I look at and say, oh, if I could do that, I would probably done this like this, and just see how it happened and turned out this way. But I try not to just focus on whatever it is and say, okay, well, what is the lesson that I'm supposed to be taking away from this thing? What's the silver lining that I'm supposed to be finding in this thing, and not look at things as like, man, if I can get that thing over. Of course, we all have things in our careers or our lives that we're like, shit, well, it may be a timing thing. You may say to yourself, well, you know what? Oh, if I would have did that thing that I did now, if I would have did that 2 years ago, I would be even further. You're like, no,
right.
You did that thing when you did that thing for whatever reason. You did a thing. Like you might have been more polished. You may have been ready for the actual blessing or whatever you're about to receive. You may be ready for the work. And that journey within that 2 years may have been a part of the actual homework so that you can make it to this test and pass this fucking test. So I try not to look at it and say, oh, man, if I did that thing. I say, man, who don't want to be rich or younger? Do more things and shit, travel, of course. But at the same time, my journey is my journey. I think I'm right in that spot I need to be to really still make some things happen.
Obviously, you're from Chicago. Mm-hmm. People should know that you got the RSVP hoodie on, the White Sox hat. Let's talk about Chicago hip hop real quick.
Yeah.
What was your first introduction to just really dope Chicago shit?
The aura, the artist going on as aura anymore, R. Kelly. But R. Kelly did raise Chicago in a lot of ways musically. So R&B was embedded in the music that was going on, whether it was a hip hop artist or a rapper, or R&B singer. So if you were stylistically, Twista still had to actually bring hip hop notes within his music for us to really receive it. You know what I'm saying? So Do or Die, Crucial Conflict, these are all, artists I listened to growing up. So Twista was definitely probably the first artist from Chicago that I'm only 32, that I connected with and was like, shit, this is our representation right here. This is the person that's rapping for us. Other than that, when they really hit the scene and really made the real waves and we took it, international, that was Kanye, honestly. So you gotta give him credit for that. Yeah. Those were soundtracks to my real childhood. Like I listened to Twista records, and I can remember exactly where I was, or what basement party I was at, what the fuck I was doing, or corner store. I remember in my head. So same thing with Kanye. Kanye really did mold and shape a lot of, I'll say, my childhood and high school years within Chicago, and he was dope representation for somebody that truly lived in the hood. I'm from K-Town, I'm from the west side, from a crazy area, but I knew at a young age that I didn't have to necessarily be up the hood, the community. I loved Kanye for that. It's being like the outcast, because people don't realize the outcast is the mass.
Yeah. You have a favorite Kanye album?
Favorite Kanye album? Ooh. I'm going to be biased and say College Dropout, just because of what it did as far as culturally speaking in Chicago. It was just bigger than rap. So it was just, for me, it was like, whoa, shit, we're a real city. We know we're a real city. We're the third biggest city in America, but somehow, for whatever reason, people look over it and other ways. So it was like, for me, it was like, oh, this is huge. I love the first three. They're all to me classics. 808s to me is a classic for what it did sonically. It wasn't my favorite album, but I do think it was dope as fuck. My Dark Twisted Fantasy is an amazing body of work, probably one of his best albums put together. I'm a Kanye fan. I love Kanye, but I would say probably College Dropout.
Nice. I grew up loving the early Common albums, and my favorite Chicago album of all time was probably Common's Resurrection album. I'm a little older than you, and with I Used to Love Her and all that. And I listened to that album repeatedly. I used to be really fat in high school, and I used to go to the gym at 6 a.m. to try to like lose my weight, and I would listen to that album on a treadmill every day for 45 minutes before I went to school. So like to this day, when I put that album on, I get like PTSD of like my clothes like not fitting and like feeling like I'm sweating on a treadmill at like a Bally's, like in a strip mall in the middle of Ohio.
I thought you were going to say you use it as an actual workout playlist to this day. Because you
Nah. I mean, I've occasionally threw it on at a gym, but when I go back and listen to it, it's just like it didn't age really well as an aggressive gym album. It's more of like, now it's like that, I listen to that album all the time still, but it's like I want to actually, now I run back and bought the vinyl. It's a very like Sunday afternoon, put the vinyl on. It's a very much more like daytime, drink some wine. It's like, it's that type of album. If I put that shit in the gym right now, I'd be lifting like 10-pound little weights. Like it's
real smooth, way too smooth. See, for me, Common was like, he was older than really my generation listening to, or my age bracket listening to Common. But of course, when introduced to Common, when I was able to actually comprehend and understand and really connect with.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we relate to music a lot of ways through bridges, like you mentioned, like that, because I learned so much, especially, from a DJ mind state too, in general, like you discover so much stuff through bridges. And now I think people are so fortunate because with Spotify and with like going on like Who Sampled and all those websites, like we live in a bridge culture. Like if you listen to 3 songs, like did you just mention, people can easily discover weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of awesome shit. And I love that. Do you miss the art of discovery, or do you like the fact that everybody has all access to everything? Because we also live in this world where people only want sneakers nobody has, and you live in a world you want the shirt nobody has, and all that shit. But when it comes to music, there's no longer that level of exclusivity.
Yeah, I think a part of us and how we were raised, we all kind of, anything, you love it when it's more exclusive. You love it when it's a little more underground and you feel like you the person that's putting people on, or you the person that knows this thing. You know what I'm saying? I was a mutual friend, Miguel, when I first met Miguel, I talked to Miguel, I was in MySpace days, and pretty much his whole first album was already on MySpace. It was on his playlist that he had on, and I remember like getting him to come in and meet. For me, I was like, man, this dude's dope. This dude's dope. People just sleep on this guy. This guy is dope. People are sleeping on this guy. His kid needs more exposure, blah, blah. And then that person blows up and you're like, see? But you're also like, damn, now you're just stuck.
So how did you go from being like I assume maybe you were in Miguel's top 8 on MySpace to going to have the whole MTV thing and all that? How did all those like lines cross?
I was working on another album of artists. I was working at A&R and just helping put their project together. And I met Drama from Fantasy Factory and Young and Reckless, Rob's cousin. Met him and he wanted to start a publishing production company. And I was like, I can help you with this and put this stuff together. I know how to songwriters and producers, help you, kind of grow your little catalog, your producing. And he was, managing producers, so to speak. And he was like, yeah, please help me with this. And then Rob just came to the studio like twice and I was just being myself. Crazy energy in the studio, also always motivate, making people, always just working with whoever it is and just always providing some good energy. And I think Rob was just like, this dude's funny and crazy. And he was like, yo, can I holler at you? And I didn't know him from a hole in the wall. And he was like, hey, we should do a show together. And I was like, yeah. Oh, yeah, cool, bro. Good talk. Like, Hollywood bullshit. And that was really, really the only time we really spoke. He told me what the show was going to be about. I told him, oh, okay, cool. Didn't have his number or anything. He calls me 3 months later and was like, hey, this is Rob Dyrdek. Wait, first of all, Rob, if you know Rob, and if you don't know Rob, I'll give you guys a little insight. He was like, that show, though, that I mentioned to you, we started tomorrow at 10 a.m. Can you be there? I've never been on television. Not even in my, it wasn't when I moved to LA, it wasn't in my interest. I was so wholeheartedly feeling like A&R is gonna take me into owning a label one day. Like I wanna, this is my passion. This is what the fuck I wanna do. And now somebody's telling me, hey, come and do this TV show with me. And I don't know, something just in me was like, well, I can be there. I'll be there at 10 a.m. And I went and we knocked it out.
Do you think that be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. thing was a test? Because he obviously knew about the show before that night, before, to call you. But I feel like a lot of times you hear a lot of these origin stories, like, if you will, of people who are like, their dream job. I see even a lot like in the tech industry, that people are just like, oh, like I really wanted to work for Uber. They called me and said, oh, we have an internship starting tomorrow, but you live in Kansas. And you just lie and be like, no problem. I'll be there 9 a.m. No problem. And then you just like fucking somehow get from Kansas from Target and you get there. Yeah. And so you wonder, like, do you think that was a test? Because you obviously passed it.
I love the question. Part of me wants to believe that it was, and that he was really this fucking strategic and just.
I know where you're going with this. You're about to say no.
But the other part of me was like, there wasn't like if I got there and walked around, there was another black dude that looked like me on set that was waiting on his call. I'd be like, it was a test. It was
like the backup Steelo.
It was like no. For me, it was that I knew I was close enough, but at the same time, if I wasn't there, if I wasn't ready, if I didn't deliver, who knows? I mean, they would have had to figure something out. The show was picked up. They already got a green light for actually shooting it, so they had to figure something out. And those dudes were funny. I mean, the first day, Jeff Tremaine, who is the executive producer and co-creator of Jackass, who's also an EP on Ridiculousness. First day, I don't know you. I'm scared. It's my first day being on television. That dude's walking around, oh, fuck this up. Just like, that's the first thing he says to me. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Also, if you know Jeff, that's just a joke that Jeff says to everybody. But I don't know. This is my first day. I am petrified. And Rob had went really hard in telling them, like, this is the guy, which I don't know why he did that and bet on me that hard, but it worked out.
That's awesome. Let's talk about consistency. You guys have been on for, the show's been on 10 years?
The show has now been... Yeah, 10 years.
Crazy, which is 20 seasons, but 10 years, which is a lot of fucking work for you. So congratulations to that. What lessons would you be able to give to our audience about consistency?
For us, it's been consistency. And I think with the consistency and time on all of us, if you want to do more things, it's about also efficiency as well. Our first season, we started off filming at 6 a.m. We were done by 6 p.m. And that was industry normal, industry standard. People were like, oh, 12 hour a day, that's cool, you shot, that's cool. And now we film 6 episodes a day, and we start at 10 a.m. We might be done by 2. And
oh, wow.
That's with all 6 episodes of us being like, take care, have a good day. So efficiency was big in that as well. And just for us, being smart enough to say, okay, well, this is becoming the bread and butter of the network somewhat. Let's pump out more. Let's give, I guess the viewership what they want. We are consistent because we do have actual chemistry and camaraderie on the show. Like, it is fun. It is still fun. I think the day that it stops being fun, we'll all look at it. It's kind of hard with being able to do 6 in a day and really quick to walk away. But at the same time, I think the day that we are not having fun anymore and we can't stand each other will probably be the day that we say, hey guys, we did it. We're 58. We did it.
Well, you got like 27 more years of that for you, right? And then we'll see 62 more seasons.
I don't want it for myself, but they also just, it's fun. It is fucking fun. It's easy.
No, I love that. What would be your dream guest for a wine tasting? Dead or alive? 5 people.
It's the anniversary of Kobe, so I'll probably say Kobe just because Kobe, I feel like he'd be well versed in wine. Like, he speaks several languages. He's lived all over the world. I feel like he would know everything about wine. So I would definitely say Kobe. I'd be like Kobe Bryant for sure.
And that gives you so many other international options for your other guests because they could speak any language.
Yeah. And then he could just translate, and then I gotta trust him. But
yeah. You gotta trust him. We trust him. Andy's drinking wine.
Yeah. This is a good question because I'm really like. I'm stumped on like who I would be like, oh, that person. I'm trying to think of what I'm a fan of.
Let's cut it down. Let's cut it down to 3 then. Kobe.
3? Who else? Okay, Kobe. If we're gonna keep it smooth, then I would say Kobe, Sade.
Ooh.
Because I just feel like it goes. I feel like Sade just goes with one. So it's just she's supposed to be there.
People with 4-letter names too. That's nice.
I need one more.
Pele.
I'm like Seal.
Yeah, so not Seal.
No,
Mick is good.
Mick. Let me get one more. And I would say Dave Chappelle. I'll go with Dave. Dave. I'll go with Dave just because I know if nothing else, comedic relief is gonna be a good time. We're gonna all have fun, talk some shit, talk about the world, and get into some stuff. So I'll go with that 4 right there.
I like that. If you ask this question to 90% of people on a podcast or an interview, they'd be like, Jesus, Obama, Oprah. It's obviously all great choices. By
all great choices for dinner.
Yeah, for dinner.
Because you got that. But we're saying strictly wine tasting. I gotta have the right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want Jesus looking over me, being like, "Yo, fam, you know what I'm saying? You gave me the wine. You just turned that water into wine. Now you're tripping on me for drinking it. I don't need that pressure on me."
Jesus come in with like 2 bottles of like Dasani, like, yo, it just turns it into wine, like right there.
Take them up and just be like,
and that's how my podcast gets canceled. So that, cool. Yo, all right, man. Well, I mean, as we get close to wrapping up here, what else can you tell us exciting about your next season of Wine and Weed? Anything you want to share? Like, what else can we look forward to from you this year?
Wine and Weed is going to be an amazing season. Season 3. We're going to have a lot more guests. We've already had a number of people on the show, but we're going to continue to bring more and more people on the show. We got some real heavy hitters coming this season. Finally started to run the show as a real show. My friends were tired of me just texting them saying, come on my show. So now we're getting this thing, getting the real engine behind it. But really exciting. We got some stuff coming up with Black History Month. We got a lot of events. So what we're going to be doing Wine and Weed more is obviously COVID friendly, making sure we taking our precautions, but at the same time doing little events that we know can just bring more eyes on the podcast, not necessarily through the podcast. But got some cool stuff planned.
Nice. I like it, man. Well, hopefully when the world opens up and I start DJing again, we'll be in the same room. We could have some wine and some music and a good time.
Please do.
Appreciate you joining the MICK Show.
All right, dude. Thanks for having me, man.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate it. Absolutely. We will make sure everybody's linked to everything that you're doing. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the MICK Show. That was it for another episode of The MICK Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please rate and subscribe to The MICK Show wherever you like to listen, and make sure to follow on Instagram @Mick and on Twitter @IamMick. Let me know who you want to hear on a future episode, and we will see you back here next week. The MICK Show is presented in partnership with MAXIM. The show is produced by Lantigua Williams & Co. Jalika Lantigua Williams is our editor. Cedric Wilson is our producer and mixed this episode. Manuela Bedoya is our social media editor.